Okay, welcome, CourseCREEK viewers. Today, I'm really super excited to introduce you to our client and the author of this really fun, important book called Refined by Failure, an online course creator, Lloyd Brown. Lloyd, welcome to our little interview show here.
Hey, I appreciate it, Robert.
Great to have you. I had the opportunity to listen to the audio for your book. I was actually on a trip to McCall, Idaho and back during a vacation. And I think that the beautiful scenery along the way helped make the book even that more memorable. But I've always told you offline as well, as I will now, is honestly, I don't read a lot of books. I don't have a lot of time to read books, but I did read your book and it is entertaining. And it is really super good. And one of the best things about it, in my opinion, is other than the lessons to learn is the storytelling, your approach to these principles that you want people to take away. Can you just tell us a little bit about who you are and Refined by Failure and how it came to be?
Absolutely. Well, I'm Lloyd Brown, and I'm the founder of a company called Smart Chemical Services. And the book came to be by getting fired from the company that I founded at the beginning of COVID. And it really was a wake-up call. And I had a great friend that kept encouraging me to write the book about how great the 10 rules were that we ran our company by. What ended up happening during the writing of the book, it became very obvious that I needed to focus on the consequences of when I broke my rules and also the benefits of when we practice those. And so that's how the book came to be. The lessons learned are over really my adult lifetime. And I share a lot of the hardest lessons with the reader to emphasize why you have rules, which are really just boundaries, and how that helps you not only personally, but also professionally.
I'm so curious in terms of the format of the book, where indeed it is sort of telling the stories of some of the failures, so to speak, that you made along the way, and then the lessons that you learned from that. That's an idea. That's a composition idea versus possibly lining out more of a systematic method and a process with workflows and that sort of thing. I'm just sort of curious how you came around to deciding to teach with sharing your stories versus creating something that would be a little bit more abstract and method oriented.
I never really thought about how I became really focused in depth on that. I was the way that the stories were told, it really came about from the critical moment that made me realize that my life was spinning out of control. As I wrote the opening for the book and I shared it with just a couple of trusted advisors, they really talked about how being vulnerable and sharing those real emotions were going to help connect better than, speaking of success. I mean, there are a lot of business books that are going to tell you what they did right and how to be like them. My method that we've come up with was really, hey, be vulnerable, talk about those interpersonal struggles that you had and where they came from. What were the things that led to those? And that's really how the creative side and the tranching of the book came to be. And then I had a couple of editors that helped guide me, very similar to what you've been doing, CourseCREEK, having subject matter experts help guide along the way of building my course content. I had the same kind of editors on writing the book. I would do the content, but then they helped organize it and help tell the story even that much better.
Yeah, well, it's a good read. Well, you just mentioned courses, so let's talk a little bit about your courses. So we work together and are still working to some degree now on helping you get your 2 courses done, produced, uploaded, the whole thing. What are some of the lessons that you've learned about course creation and using the digital medium to mirror or complement the book?
Well, I think the first thing is the process that CourseCREEK utilizes is a lot like writing an outline for a book and getting the structure about what you want to communicate and how you want to communicate it. I think that's been one of the best parts about it. And learning, I think for me, I'm going to speak for me personally, investing a little bit more time on the outline would have paid a lot more dividends. There were some struggles that happened on my part because I didn't put enough time into really building the outline like I did on my book. I was relying too much on the book's outline and not the course outline. And they're different.
Yeah, right. Yeah, different mediums. They specifically referring to the instructional design and your storyboard and the work that we did together on the curriculum.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. What the curriculum, the lessons are very different or a lot different based on the medium. Right. So what works for a book doesn't always work for an online course video, and vice versa. So you have to sort of, they can be similar, but you have to sort of have a whole different slate, a clean slate when you're doing that. Yeah, that's cool. Thank you.
And then again, it's like I said with editors in writing the book, your team has had subject matter experts at every level along the way in building out the curriculum, and then the really helping vet the content creation, and then ultimately recording the videos and doing the editing to get it ready to launch onto the education platform, LearnWorlds, that we're using.
Yeah. You've done a great job. It's been a super pleasure working with you. Hello, I want to talk to you real quickly about a learning management system that CourseCREEK recommends quite often. It's called LearnWorlds. You have the opportunity on LearnWorlds to license your content to large organizations. LearnWorlds has design templates that look beautiful, fluid, and silky to the eye. You can give your students badges and seals and do a lot of fun things to encourage them to keep moving on. So if you're looking for a great learning management system, we do recommend LearnWorlds, and of course, we can help you put it together and get it on its feet. Thank you. Okay, Lloyd, what are 2 or 3 of the most urgent pain points your clients have or hear often that you hear in your consultations, in your one-on-ones with people, with CEOs, that are very common that you might be able to point out right now and share with us? Like, what kind of questions or issues come up the most?
I think first is being a CEO is a lonely role. And who do you visit with? And that is giving advice that really doesn't have expectations to it. When you talk to your family, they have a self-interest in what they advise for you. If you visit with employees, they have a self-interest. And if your company has investors or a board of directors, they have self-interest. And one of the biggest things, and one of the reasons that so many CEOs reach out, is they need somebody that's just there for them, that doesn't have a financial self-interest in anything but helping them develop really what I like to call boundaries on making their decisions. And one of the other things is helping them rediscover or define better the why that they're doing what they do, and to have that why be congruent between their personal life and their business life. Too many times we think we have to separate them, and most of them are like, how do I balance between the two? Well, work-life balance doesn't exist. And I think that's one of the conversations we have, because life is a continuation of waves between home and work. So what do you do to make a decision? How do you make a decision? And it's really understanding what your purpose is, what your why is. And if it doesn't fit within that, you get to say no. And so that's been a common theme with every client as we're walking through the processes, to help them have a consistency that they can explain by using their why when they say yes or when they say no, or when somebody has not met their expectations or they've not met their own expectations. They can go back and look at it.
Mm-hmm. So being a CEO is a lonely course. Everybody gets a trusted advisor, but the CEO oftentimes, and you're going to step in and be that guy that leaders can confide in and can be vulnerable with.
That's right.
And what I hear you saying is another thing, that part of all the teaching is to help your clients understand the why they're doing what they're doing, probably from a big perspective and an individual strategic perspective on each decision, and calling that a principle, right? And then whether or not it's, when they're confronted with decisions, they would reflect back to the why, which gives them an ability to say yes or no or maybe. Is that, I probably oversimplifying. My apologies if I'm
You're really not. And
Okay.
I love and utilize Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why, because it really does help give us clarity on what we're doing. And, entrepreneurs, you're an entrepreneur just like I am. We get things going. We have ideas and we start running with them really fast. And if we're not careful, we say yes to way too many things and we start saying no to the most important. And that's ultimately why you need to slow down and go, hey, may be a great idea, but it really doesn't fit within my purpose, within my calling.
It is so true. Guys like you and I are really good at coming up with great ideas, but in a sense, it's maybe not such a great idea because it creates distraction and it cuts away at your focus. Yeah. By the way, I have been mentored a bit by Lloyd personally as well. He's just great. He's really good at this. Please share with us one great how-to tip for viewers. It could be anything related to our discussion. Maybe what we were just talking about, a how-to find your why.
I'll give you an example of the decision that I made to work with you.
Okay.
My why is to be a person of influence, not a person of position, to help others get what they want, need, and desire. So at the end of my life, God says to me, well done, good and faithful servant. And those that knew me wish they had one more day with me. So my tip is, if you can't speak to the why, as I just did with you, that's why you need to get a why. If the relationships that I have become about my authority or a position and not about my relationship and my influence, I don't need to do it. I've been there. It's not what I'm called to do going forward. And so my tip is, I'd highly recommend reading Simon's book and using the 5 whys. Develop what your purpose and mission is. And that being the case, when I look to hire you and develop my course content, how could I be present with more people, have an ability to be a positive influence on them without having to be physically present in the meeting? Because I'm the limiting, my ability to be someplace is my limiting factor. Mm-hmm. And so understanding how to leverage my time, leverage the ability to communicate that, I hired CourseCREEK to help me develop my online learning platforms.
Yeah. Right. To get the scalability. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, it makes total sense. It makes perfect sense. And I've been with you every step of the way in that. It's been a good relationship, really. Like I've really enjoyed.
I agree.
Working with you on different levels. Would you be kind enough to share a hero story? A story where things weren't looking good. You found yourself in a moment that was not happening. Life was a lot of adversity at once, perfect storm. And somehow you rise like a phoenix. You came out of that, you found strength, you looked inside. I mean, you're the perfect guy for this. And so what we're simply doing is asking you to share a phoenix rising from rags to riches, whatever it may be, story that would inspire viewers and anybody that watches this.
So I would call it a rags to relationship. It's a story of coming from feeling isolated and living in a point of shame into becoming vulnerable and learning that I wasn't alone and that the lessons that I've learned were valuable to share with others. And it's really the time of being fired from the company that I founded, mm-hmm. and feeling immense failure, shame, and then going through a process of personal self-evaluation. And at the time that I did the outline for the book, I read another book called Get Out of Your Own Way by Dave Hollis. And that book really resonated. He talked a lot about, you'll hire personal trainers to get in great shape physically. Why mm-hmm. won't you hire a mental trainer? And so I hired a counselor, and she and I walked along. She really helped give clarity to the message that I had in the book. And she was very instrumental in continuing to support that vulnerability. Her name's Twyla. And so from that, becoming vulnerable, I have not recruited a single coaching client. They've all come through referrals, some directly from the book, but others where they've just sought me out to walk with them, and because they did feel alone and they resonated with it. So yeah, I went from feeling isolated in the leadership of the company that I founded into having some really deep meaningful interpersonal relationships that have reinforced my why.
That's great. So in a sense, do you sort of feel like you left one tribe and built a new tribe around you, possibly?
Yeah, I don't think I built the tribe. I think I just, because they're all individual relationships, they have a lot in common, but they're not in one organization, they're in multiple organizations. And so, if you think about it, I love compounding. Warren Buffett's rich because at a very young age, he got the concept of compounding and he's done amazing. One of my trusted advisors, we were talking about during this journey, what purpose would it be to go back and do what I've done before? Whereas if I'm working with multiple companies with thousands of employees overall and influencing and helping their leaders, how many more lives can I touch than just being the leader of one organization?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so that's the benefit of having the ability to provide positive influence and really, being a guide for these other CEOs. So it's not as, I get the tribe, but it's really more about a community than it is a tribe. And there's a lot of diversity because they're all in different industries and they all have different whys.
Are you only helping exclusively CEOs, or can you help other people at different management levels and other people in general? What's your thoughts on that?
The principles are for anybody that is a leader or aspires to be one.
Yeah.
And it's also recognizing that to be a person of influence, you don't have to be in position. So it's absolutely helping anybody understand how to develop their own personal boundaries, and whether they're a person that is a support person that uplifts an organization. And let me tell you, CEOs are the most fortunate people because there are so many people that uplift them and support them. And the more people that have a driven purpose and understand the value of boundaries, the better it is. And so it's for those that aspire to be a leader or a person of influence.
Great.
I think recognizing that the one thing that we take with us are our relationships, and setting expectations with the people that you're closest to or that you work with, and results matter. Identify the boundaries and what it means to be successful and what it means to fail, and failing's learning. But if a relationship's not going the way that you want, or there's commitments that aren't going the way that you want, if you at the beginning of that time had said, hey, this is what success looks like, and this is what it doesn't look like, and what are we going to do as we continue to be successful in our relationship, or if we run into challenges, by setting those really at the beginning when we know that we're going to be in a longer term relationship or we're making decisions that are both personal and financial. We really want to make sure that we have extreme clarity and we don't jump into it really fast. Because I can look back personally when I've made very quick decisions in starting relationships and not having real clarity. I think I know what I want. I think they know what I want, but not really memorializing it in some way has created more opportunity for friction and broken relationships. And so that's one of the things that I now practice personally when I'm going to jump into a relationship that is going to be ongoing.
Lloyd, thank you for your valuable time today. Thank you for sharing really true wisdom. Where can people find you? Where can people get your book and get your course?
That's my pleasure, Robert. And I appreciate your mentorship and your guiding me along the way and having me on your show today.
It's been lovely. And just so people know, if you go to refinedbyfailure.com, you can find Lloyd's book, his course, and the work that we've done together. And with that, we'll just be on our merry way. Thank you for watching our show here. Hope you got something from it.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, enjoy your day.
Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye.
Bye.